I don't have to tell you that Germany is obviously the most important country in Europe right now. But for Germany, the big question, right, is what do they do? What is their role? Vanessa Fuhrmans is here to tell us about Germany and their conflict over what their role is. Vanessa, how are you? This is a very long story, very in-depth story you have here in the paper today.
Yeah, thank you.
You break down for us the basics of this. Why are the Germans sort of reticent about taking on this leadership role that is being thrust upon them?
Well, because the leadership role basically means spending a lot of money. And so you can perhaps understand why they might be reluctant to do that. You know, everybody is telling the Germans from the outside, certainly not their politicians, but from the outside are telling them the euro has been very good for you. But many Germans would tell you they don't know that they've felt the direct benefits of the euro, that they have felt the direct benefits of the export growth. They've only seen that their wages haven't really increased over the last 10 years, and meanwhile their European neighbors to the south have been living it up and are now, as many of them would put it, paying for their sins.
Right. Certainly through the advent of the euro and through the use of the euro over the last decade plus, what has happened is that, at least on that sense, Germany has become far more integrated with all the European nations have become far more integrated. I mean, can Germany actually, can they afford to not be involved? Can they afford to not take another step?
Well, I think most economists would say no, they cannot afford to not be involved. But that doesn't change the popular sentiment, and that is that these bailouts, all of these measures that have been strung out over the last few years just haven't worked. They just look at Greece, and they're looking primarily at Greece, I would say, and they are seeing that none of the bailouts have worked. They've seen that this country is getting worse. And so I think the common view here in Germany has really become, why don't we just cut this troubled economy out, you know, kind of like a cancer, really. And then maybe things will start to get better. Maybe then the markets will have more confidence in the rest of the Eurozone. So when you see polls now, there's a solid majority of the populace or people who are surveyed who say Greece should leave the euro, even though most people, most policymakers, economists will tell you that would be even much more expensive.
Right. I mean, still, Germany sends a lot of their product to other European countries, right? I mean, economically, the rest of Europe is a big market for Germany, obviously, right?
Right. 40% of German exports go to the Eurozone. But the other key thing to look at is that most of the growth over the last, in particular over the last several years, and as the euro crisis has really endured, has come from emerging markets, particularly China. That's a huge market for Germany, as it is with everybody, but particularly German exports. Other emerging markets, the U.S. So the Eurozone is slowly going down in importance, but there's no doubt about it. It's Germany's largest trading
Vanessa,
partner.
I want to ask about this meeting in November that you talk about, because it seems like a big idea behind the euro was that it would bring the nations together. But this meeting you talked about in November between Germany and Greek officials really highlighted how much of a cultural divide there still is.
Yeah, that was really, you know, these were low-level parliamentarians, delegates meeting, but it really was kind of an upfront snapshot into these fissures that have formed over the crisis, and have really brought old fissures, tensions to the fore. I mean, these Greek parliamentarians were reproaching the Germans for things that happened in World War II. They were blaming the debt crisis actually on reparations, and this reparations issue is still a very big topic in Greece in terms of the way they talk and focus on Germany and its role in the debt crisis.